Hello.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
folks. We are live. Good evening and welcome to the Sultans of Shadilay podcast. I apologize for the brief screw up there. I have rearranged some of my stuff and that has screwed with everything. So,
But that came just in time.
yes, you've
Wonderful.
arrived at the
Yes,
perfect time.
yes.
I'm
Because
amazing.
because your presence here, Trim, is obligatory, not supererogatory.
I like how Callum knew it was Vosh.
Yeah.
I mean,
You
Indeed.
though
get
the
that
way,
pretentious fucking dialogue in there.
yeah, it's
It's
just like
utilitarianly positive.
every time you talk like that, I just feel my fist just magnetically pulled towards the screen.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I,
So,
I'm kind of disappointed Sargon wasn't there because I feel like he would have gotten a bigger kick out of it.
yeah, it's very, very fun. Good.
To be fair, I
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
the new guy. He seems like a funny addition to the collection.
Yeah, they've got.
Student of history. So you saw that debate as well, then?
All right, so let's rock into the first item of the night, which is why the hell was I playing Old Lang Syne at you guys? Two reasons. One, just a small tribute to Sir David Amas. And two, that was copyright free. So, yay. So, yeah, just a small tribute to the late David Amas after his murder, not passing as they keep referring to it.
May he rest in peace. Nobody deserves that kind of end unless you're a communist.
Well,
Maybe not even then.
disavow, disavow.
Disavow. No
Like
executions
that
prior
in
to a fair
Minecraft.
trial.
Oh, there we go.
The method of execution is up for debate at a later time.
I'm okay with that.
Not something without dignity, though.
Only
Yes.
we only give them something without dignity if they super especially deserve it, like pedophiles.
Yes. And terrorists who manage to get captured alive.
No,
We just
I,
figured
I
out what
think
they like
even
and just do the
there,
opposite.
I think even there, like having there be a moralistic element to the execution, like I don't know, say a firing squad, a hanging, a decapitation. There's something about that that is more human than making it this like almost clinical, sterile procedure.
Yes, I think that's one of the issues that especially the French got themselves into when they started guillotining people. You've got to keep the human in it because
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with the idea Callum had that you sort of base the execution a bit upon you could say, the drive of the terrorist.
indeed. So one thing
Now
to be
it's
careful, I reckon we need to be careful with when we're executing someone is to not forget that an execution is by essence depriving someone of their life and liberty,
Yep.
which
yeah,
is
exactly.
something you need to be very, very careful with.
Well,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of interesting that I can sympathize with quite a few of the anti-death penalty arguments, but the reason I'm ambiguous about the death penalty
No?
because I mean, aside from the whole question of certainty and making sure you don't get innocence in it, but
So what?
like on a principle level, the reason I'm ambiguous about it is because I'm not fully convinced that that a life sentence is more merciful than a death penalty. Like
I
if
think you're
people call the
actually
death
right.
penalty cruel and unusual, then like I'm not really sure the life sentence is less cruel and unusual.
You have a good point there,
It's
but
a waste of resources, in my opinion.
yeah, that would
And
be
this
my
comes
that
from
would be
someone who lives in a country where the death sentence is not existent.
yeah, that'd be my counterpoint as well. Is it better for
Like,
society to keep them in prison or bury them under the prison?
yeah, I think that's like exactly the reason why the death penalty was far more common in like the olden days, and why I wouldn't begrudge them for that. Because it's kind of like, you know, they just don't have like the resources to expend like that much on keeping people in prison for like 50 years, like,
It's a
you
cold,
know.
hard practicality in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
Uh, Prime Knight asks, prison camp commune for pedos? No, prison camp commune for the communists, since they like it.
Oh,
They're
there is one.
so much.
We have one. We do have one. It's called a wood chipper.
Well, well, actually, as an interesting point, that's also why I'm like not even a like tenth as disgusted by indentured servitude in the past as I am with slavery in the past.
True,
Because like
especially the
indentured,
ones that ended up as indentured servants or slaves as an alternative to just killing them on the battlefield.
yeah,
At least
yeah,
they
I,
get
I
use it
think
out of
that
them.
like because I know that that's kind of a thing that people bring up with the Bible quite a bit when it comes to that topic. But I think a lot of the time that does, you know, kind of come down to the alternative of like death on the battlefield. Like you're not gonna like fucking keep someone in prison or whatever. Or really, a lot of the time the Bible talks about slavery. The more accurate translation is indentured servitude, like somebody in debt agreeing to work for someone for like 7 years with the kind of, you know, thingamajig that their debt gets like paid for by the person they serve for those 7 years.
Yeah, and
But
another
you actually
example,
get something out
another
of them.
thing that I reckon ties a bit into that is the Boer prisoner camps. We all know that that went catastrophically fucking wrong, and that was after the railway was invented. Like the logistics to feed a bunch of prisoners is phenomenal, and even in the late 1800s, well, granted the Boers were blowing up the rail lines, but the logistics just weren't there to feed a bunch of prisoners who are being unproductive. Now, alternatively, you say take a bunch of prisoners and go, here is some land, make food. Now, Aaron Sasona has a good point. We wouldn't need the death penalty if we actually tried to help reform people instead of just punishing them. I'd say that's true in part, but also there are some people that can't be reformed.
I
Like,
was just about to say that.
yeah, like some murderers. There are so many murderers who I wouldn't be a proponent of the death penalty
Jeffrey
for.
Dahmer,
Like,
Jeffrey Dahmer, Anders Breivik, those guys. I mean, the
no.
terrorists in Norway who should
Oh,
be
yes,
hung after his
those
own
ones,
guts.
the ones who. It's more about recidivism. There are some murderers who will never kill another person. The circumstances will never arise that brings them to a situation where they will commit murder again. Some murderers, on the other hand, like the terrorists, like Anders Breivik, etc., etc., yeah, no objection whatsoever.
Well, well, that gets into some weird territory because while I agree in principle, like I think there are three components to criminal justice. There is what I view as the retributive element, or no. Okay, so there's the reformative rehabilitative element, right? There's the deterrent element, and you know that should be kind of the goal of criminal justice is deterrence and rehabilitation. But then the retributive element, rather than being a goal, is the justification or lack of, meaning that you can't make a deterrent by scapegoating an innocent person. You can't rehabilitate someone, quote unquote, who has committed no crime. And the rehabilitation or punishment ought not exceed the crime that they're being punished for. Um, but kind of the issue with just looking at that rehabilitatively when it comes to like recidivism rates is that there are some types of murder where the recidivism rate is like so low that there's not like much rehab like necessary, and you could get them out in like a year or two. The problem is that that wouldn't serve as like a defective or an effective deterrent, like say spousal homicide, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And another example is like your 1.5 million kinds of manslaughter. Like, you, two guys get in a punch up in a bar, one of them hits the other, falls back and dies. Like, depending on the circumstances and who was the aggressor, like, never going to happen again. But also,
You do have the intent to harm, but not all the intent to harm is an intent to kill.
well, true, and that's one of the things that makes a difference in like how they're punished, especially in the States. But yeah, the key part,
Yeah,
I do agree with what Second's saying. Some people, even without prison, would never commit murder again. But we also don't want anyone else to commit murder in the same way, so we do still need some form of punishment. And also we do still want some enough punishment to be there to at least go. If you do end up in a similar situation by some horrendous mischance, maybe don't kill them.
True. I do agree with what Billy Blog says because, again, while I condone the execution in some cases, it has to be a cut and dry case. It can't be any shady. It has to be without a shadow of a doubt
Yeah,
the guy
absolutely.
who
None of
committed it.
this reasonable doubt's enough to stick him in prison. But for this, we need to be absolutely certain.
Which
well,
means
that's
that
actually the
most
reason. I think that's actually the reason behind the arguments that the death sentence is actually more expensive than the life penalty, precisely because of the amount of legal fees it takes to get through all of that red tape most of the time.
Yeah,
yeah, but that doesn't actually make
that's
it
not a
better
good point.
because then suddenly,
But
if the guy gets life penalty, it turns out he wasn't guilty after all.
well, again, that's where we need to be looking at the man. I think maybe the issue is that it shouldn't be focused as a one and done initial determination at the
Yeah.
sentencing stage. Like, there should be a trial that establishes beyond reasonable doubt, and that locks them up. And then, if they're super ultra nasty, then you can have another investigation into whether we just go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
sounds
think
good.
I think that's the process actually.
No,
Or
we,
maybe it's not. I might be tweaking.
Aw.
yeah. Bas Van Dupen says, what about gang violence with a deadly result? Don't think that's worth the death penalty in most cases. Probably not, because there's a whole other mess. And I'd think that in a lot of cases, the kids, and they're quite literally kids in most circumstances, getting involved in gang violence could probably be rehabilitated if
Yeah.
there was more focus on reform.
I also think that there's like something of a moral distinction between like aggressor and aggressed and mutual combatants.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
So like
there
say,
is,
say two people agree to have a fight to the death.
which
Like
is
I'm
interesting.
not that shouldn't be treated the same as like just
No.
like murdering a random
And
person.
interestingly, that ties into something we've covered before in Chicago, where some gangbangers were each having a go at each other. Yeah, sure. Maybe it's worth not charging them for murder or attempted murder because they were mutual combatants, but instead of throwing everything out, maybe we should have a talk about reckless discharge of a firearm in a built-up area. Like, they shouldn't go away with it scot-free, but yeah, it's probably not worth doing them for life on an attempted murder charge when they could probably be dragged away, thrown in prison, given an education. And then we do something about this mess of felons not being able to get work. Because if we could put most of these people who get involved in gang violence probably don't have the equivalent of of 5 years in secondary education. So maybe in their 5 years in prison, or 2 or 3 years, 2 years even, because it's not like they've got anything else to do. We give them an education, then we go, okay, now let us set things up so that we can get you into like a halfway house and some support to get into work, because it is not only better for you, but it is better for society as a whole if, like, we spend 6 months worth of money on you to get you into work and your own housing, and then we never fucking hear from you again, than to have to lock you up every 6 months.
So Billy Blogs makes a point. They just get even deeper into the gang life in prison. Look at the recidivism rates. Yeah, this is something that Jordan Peterson notes, that the kind of fucked thing about prison is that we take like the most violent and anti-social people in society. We have to separate them from society by sticking them in close proximity to a fuck ton of people who are exactly like them. And that's like a very shitty solution, but that there's not a particularly better option.
Well, there is kind of a better option. It just depends on how much resources you want to put into it.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. You can't build like a fuck ton of different buildings around the country and go 5 prisoners per building. Like, if you were doing it at that rate, it would be like a lot more effective, but it would also be extremely costly.
But we could solve a large amount of the gang problem with something else they've discussed previously: the decriminalization of possession.
Yeah.
That'd probably, just that alone would probably wipe out most gangs.
Basically.
Like.
Yeah.
Duffy B says the focus also has to be post-prison life. Unless on parole, most criminal records should be sealed, thus allowing ex-cons to freely work. I agree, and I'll expand on that. I reckon after a certain period, like 2 or 5 years, depending on what they were in prison for, if they haven't done anything, we give them back their full rights as citizens, including firearms.
I agree.
You see, there is one issue with that came up in the US, which was that, like, when measures like that were tried, it actually increased discrimination against Black people, because
Really?
without the because I think Thomas Sowell talks about this, that there's like 3 types of like discrimination. There's like discrimination between individuals, discrimination on the basis of race or whatever, or group identity, and then there's discrimination on the basis of group identity when those broader statistics are all you have to go off of in the absence of individual information. So with criminal records like available, a lot of like employers would just look at the individual person's criminal record or lack of, and then that would be fine. But with those sealed, the effect that tended to have, it was people kind of using broader statistics, and that created a bias against like Black applicants, because statistically they would be more likely to have had a criminal record. So employees would go off of those statistics, whereas if that information was available, they could look at each individual person and say, okay, you don't have a background like this, so yeah, welcome to the club, kind of thing.
Okay, consider me schooled. You have me converted. You have changed my mind.
I didn't hear anything bad in my opinion either.
Well, and I think that's also something, that example, I forget what it was. If anyone else like watched Ben Shapiro talk about this at some point, what was that called? Like type 1 beer or whatever the fuck? Like that also like has effects in other areas, like what, say, neighborhoods Uber drivers are willing to go into on kind of broader assumptions about like what kind of Uber passenger that they might, be expected to get. And so I think somebody made the suggestion of like how there's ratings for Uber drivers, like ratings for Uber passengers as well, and thus that like individual information would kind of clear some of that up somewhat.
Yeah, that is actually a thing. Uber passengers have a rating.
Well,
Yes, that's
I
the other
think there is.
that's the thing I was thinking of that I completely forgot. So since sealing the criminal records is apparently a disastrous idea, maybe the alternative is to try and reduce the stigma associated with being an ex-felon. I mean, after all, if they've
Yeah.
theoretically done their time, they are now a free
They
man, and
served their time.
yep, that's the point. That's it. They've served their debt to society theoretically, so they should be allowed to be a full participant.
Yeah, perhaps like maybe like a so you know how there's like Alcoholics Anonymous and shit, right? That kind of thing, or like drug rehabilitation programs. Like maybe there could be kind of like a socially accepted thing where somebody gets out of prison and then maybe goes to meetings like that, which aren't like compulsory, right? But that, if they choose the option, then they can like cite that, on their resume or in their history or to potential employers to like show their genuine interest in like the fact that they're reformed and that they're turning away from that completely.
Yeah, a bunch of post-release programs
Yeah.
like in Australia we've got TAFE, and you can do a bunch of courses at like a that's essentially equivalent to a year 10 level in all sorts of things. Like you can go off and get a certificate in warehousing or something and get a forklift ticket. Like if the government opened up things like that to ex-cons, I think that would have a significant benefit. Because if they could show that on release they'd voluntarily gone into a program, they'd attained a qualification, like, especially in something where being an ex-con is less likely to have an impact.
Yeah.
I don't see a
Yeah,
problem with that.
like Aaron has a point about the surprise if the prison stigma like ever goes away here in the U.S. Like it's really strong. Yeah, I agree with that. And like I simp for the U.S. being the best country in the world, and I simp for the right wing. But I do think that the prison system and like criminal justice is actually something I'm more on the side of what would be called the left in of European countries.
I'm going to say something here because I'm a bit of an America fan, but your prison system sucks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to get the
Like
argument.
the thing that America really doesn't seem to get in regards to its prisons is that once they're out, you want to fucking keep them out.
Yeah, yeah.
Not bring them back in. It's a bad idea.
Well, I think to some extent, part of that. I don't know to what extent that has to do with culture.
I suppose that's
Hmm.
tied. It's tied into
Like,
multiple facets.
like I'd imagine if you tried whatever the Norwegian solution was in America, that it would work better, but I doubt it would like
It wouldn't work.
achieve comparable
It
results
wouldn't
here.
work
Actually,
anywhere near as well.
I remember one. Oh, sorry. I remember actually a case a few years ago, or not a case. A prison warden from America came over to Norway, and he looked over the prisoners, and essentially he was comparing his prisoners with ours who have done basically the same crime. And the American warden was like, "What the hell are you doing? This is unacceptable." Blah 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 blah. And everything he said and everything he proposed would be stuff that would just make the criminals more resentful and less likely to
Yeah,
reform.
Yeah, and for the criminals that can be rehabilitated, you really, really, really need to rehabilitate them.
Yeah. I
Because
mean, it seems to me like the
I
American prison system is more based on
yeah.
spite than anything else.
Well, I think might be a bit of a misunderstanding of the concept of just law and order itself. You need to remove criminals from society. But what if you remove the criminal from the person, and then the person goes back, but the criminal just fucks off into the ether?
Sounds like a good dream.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry, I didn't quite follow that.
Let me try and make it make more sense. Like, obviously, we want to get scum off the streets. So, what if we took the part of the individual that's scum, removed it from them through rehabilitation and mental health treatment, etc., 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 and then we had a person back on the streets? We've achieved the result without actually being stupid about it. But that's probably a smarter way of phrasing that.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I just think that there's a certain points where it would become kind of like fucked, by which I mean all for rehabilitation. But, I think like there's a certain extent to which that measure gets you into the Clockwork Orange moral dilemma. Have either of you seen that movie?
No,
That's
I
the one
can't
where
say
the
I
guy
have.
is forced to watch a movie with his eyes open, right?
Yeah, it's that one. Basically, you have this like violent, like kind of criminal, like murderer rapist guy, and he goes through this experimental treatment, the Luvatico treatment, where he's like injected with drugs and is essentially put through a form of like hyper what's the term, aversion therapy to like reform him through like a full-on assault on his personality. But kind of the critique of that to some extent is that he's no longer a man at that point. He's a clockwork orange, organic on the outside but mechanical on the inside. So
Okay,
there's
so
a
that's
certain
what it means.
extent where if like a treatment gets to like that point, then there is something that is like kind of, I think, deeply inhumane and kind of abolition of man level about that.
Yeah. What happened?
Billy blogs.
I know. Why don't we just send them to? Yeah.
Bezic. check chat.
That worked so well the last time, huh?
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely don't disagree with you, Stratosphere. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, based on the way that some people talk about it and based on the way that some people talk about their principles, the end result of those principles would lead to certain points if the specifications aren't made. This is kind of like the slippery slope thing, where like it's obviously not the case that because slippery slope that something that isn't intrinsically bad shouldn't be done, but that if there is a slippery slope, the kind of roadblock that would prevent it should be like erected and specified.
Indeed, and that's where America has at least the idea of a solution to some of the slippery slope problems, setting restrictions on the government rather than the people.
Yeah.
Like, we know you're going to try this shit, so we're making a rule against it now.
Probably won't stop the Dems from overruling it.
Yeah, hopefully we don't hit like another moment in this podcast where I like burst out laughing at something unrelated while you have like a dead baby story up.
I don't think I've got a dead baby story this week. Can someone help me out?
Okay, good. That makes me happy.
I mean, there's always a dead baby story, but I did not want to get depressed,
Well,
so
okay, not as much in Texas now, so you know.
that's a good one.
Nice.
And not in
Yeah,
Norway, because here we have standards.
Right.
Bread and standards.
So, shall we get back to David MS? Because
I need to get this off my chest too, because Oiled made a video comment where he like showed off a wide array of chef knives.
we
I mean,
saw it was great.
there's two things. One, in truth, you don't need an army of knives. It's nice and gives you a lot of, let's say, flexibility, but in truth, you just need one good knife. And when you're gonna try and show off your knives and be like, dab on the chefs, don't use global knives. Those are the shittiest, most useless knives in existence. It's like going to a car, going like to a bunch of people collecting cars, and then showing up with a Volkswagen Beetle that is made up from different parts from different cars. Look how good my car is. Global knives, Jesus Christ.
Triggered chef noises.
Well, yeah. All you need is one knife. But if you want to have like a full collection of knives, then that would be super derogatory.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't shame the people who have a collection of knives.
Yeah.
I just shame the people who think that a collection of global knives actually count for anything.
No, because if those knives are utilitarianly positive and that they perform a function, then that's enough. You know, like it would be nice. It would be nice if people had better knives, but it's not essential.
God damn it. You're kind of right, though. What?
Fuck. That kind of ruins the point of it, though.
I mean, sorry, it's just global knives are completely useless because they're full steel, right? And if you get a little bit of liquid on the handle, it just everything becomes like handling soap, wet soap.
Oh,
you need a wooden or plastic handle, preferably wooden.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the Mac knives. They're pretty good, and of course, custom knives from Japan. They are beautiful.
Like a rubbery material type handle? That can be decently ergonomic.
Yeah, that works too. That works too. But I prefer wood. Feels better. Shut fuck. That. Yeah. Never mind that.
Alrighty. So, nasty tweets did not kill the recently departed David RMS.
Wow,
and
my
this
mind
is coming from, of all places, Spiked Online.
What?
Yep. So, not only did mean tweets not kill him, neither did Angela Rayner or anonymous trolls. The response to the suspected Islamist murder is absurd.
What?
You're right there, Trim?
I'm just trying to. Can you repeat that?
What? That nasty tweets did not kill David MS?
What? Of course not. But what's the last thing you said there?
Nor did Angela Rayner or anonymous trolls. The response to this suspected Islamist murder is absurd.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and this is coming from Spiked Online.
I mean, welcome to the party after all.
I'm not really familiar with Spiked. What is the context of that?
I'm not familiar with them being super ultra based. So
they're kind of like Vice Light.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They used to be, at least, if they keep this thing going.
Okay, are we talking like old Vice, relatively old Vice, or disgusting, deceptively edited interview of Jordan Peterson Vice?
Vice Light. Basically, the latter one, just not completely down the
Yeah,
drain.
like Vice 1.5.
Yeah. They're close, but not there.
So, not exactly super ultra conservative, but also not insane.
It's a nice middle ground.
Yeah. So, of course, the politicians, never being ones to let a good tragedy go to waste, want to lock down the internet and remove all the internet anonymity.
Because trolls are evil and cause murder, don't you know?
Apparently, but all the people on Twitter wishing death to people who haven't gotten the poke, that's fine. All the people saying they should be rounded up and forcibly poked against their will, that's totally okay. But sending mean tweets to members of parliament? Oh, can't do that.
What about firebombing cars on people who have gotten the illegal coup?
I'm sure that's fine too. Actually, I'm sure probably the only problem with that is the smoke causing pollution. Because you know that if you set cars on fire, that's bad for the environment.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Manning's popped in and says Spiked is strange because they can be super base, but they also have plenty of actual communists working there. Interesting. So, even Priti Patel said she was considering removing the right to anonymity on social media to stop what she called the relentless abuse of MPs online. Let's start.
Not like that one.
Yeah, let's start with the fact that I think that the right to anonymity applies in real life too. As in, the police actually should need a reason to ask for you to identify yourself. And you should be totally within your rights to decline to do so, unless you're actually being charged with or investigated for an actual fucking crime.
I mean, why would people waste resources on actual crime when you can actually get someone for posting mean tweets?
Why spend effort, tracking down criminals when you can just do a Twitter search for the F word? No, the other one. And then just send some coppers around to threaten a little old housewife.
Or call someone.
Oh, sorry. Is housewife sexist or transphobic this week?
I need to flip a coin first. Sexist.
Okay, it's sexist. My bad. Good thing I'm not in the UK.
No, you're somewhere worse.
How the fuck does that end up being something that's true?
Clown World, maybe?
Yeah, Hong Kong. I need to get a soundboard up. I found an interesting app the other day that I can apparently put on my tablet to turn it into like a Stream Deck Lite. I should do that one day.
Okay, that'd be badass.
We are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people.
Nice.
Nice.
Approved.
Nice.
Man, I miss that guy's speeches.
He got a bit carried away and a bit rambly sometimes, but at least he can make a sentence.
Yeah. And the rambles were always like fun in a good way, kind of endearing. Not like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Yeah.
So there was this famous philosopher who said,
my wife, she likes to leave notes for me. I'll get up in the morning. I'll want to shave, and she'll put notes on the mirror so that I can begin to remember what I'm supposed to be talking about. And it's like, oh my God, Joe.
One thing I have to ask this now, because I've been for my own sanity, been dropping the speeches he's made lately. But is that actually a speech he made? Because
yes, yeah,
you're kidding me.
It's not word for word, but it's close enough.
Oh, God, I feel sorry for you guys.
Yeah.
Thank God for states' rights, eh?
Yeah.
Though,
Which is
interestingly,
why Biden wants the federal government to crack down on everything, including election standards, and vaccine mandates.
Don't you mean enhancing standards?
No, I mean fortifying.
Oh,
yes,
there
fortifying.
we
Got to
go.
get the terminology right.
Ooh, student of history, do any of you have any right to complain about the God Emperor being rambly? No, we were just saying we loved it.
Yeah.
Prime Knight asks, how long until they just shove a stick up his and use him as a ventriloquist dummy? What, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Jen Psaki and the Biden administration that Biden does not represent.
Yeah. Oh boy.
God, that was such a mask off moment.
Aren't you happy you voted for that guy?
Yeah.
Totally legitimate, guys.
Yeah.
Totally legitimate.
Most popular president ever.
Oh man, I can't even.
Dear. So speaking of completely insane non sequiturs, Dan Hodges said in the Mail on Sunday, I don't know why Sir David Armas was killed, but the visceral hatred of Tories at the heart of Labour has to end right now. Pretty sure that Labour has nothing to do with that murder. Assassination, rather.
I mean, have you used the right kind of crazy glasses yet?
Yeah, it's the strangest mess. So let's see. So, of course, the murder had been treated as a suspected terrorist incident with potential Islamist motivation. Yep, unsurprising. And the suspect, who we will not name because fuck him, is being detained under the Terrorism Act. Reportedly, he was referred to the Prevent program years ago, though little came of it. He appears to have been self-radicalized.
Is he a self-radicalized native or is he a self-radicalized immigrant?
He's of Somali heritage, so not sure if he's an immigrant or a second generation.
So somewhere between the former and the latter.
Yeah, I would assume like at least native born, right? Because that's how that tends to go. Like how common is it to immigrate and then become radicalized? I think it's usually like, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Lotus Eaters have talked about this before. It's usually like the children or whatever, or grandchildren who grow up in that culture and then like get radicalized by people somewhat.
And because they don't bother integrating, they have a cultural identity crisis. Billy Bloggs says he was brought in as a refugee child, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well...
And he had rich parents who were part of the Somali government, apparently.
Okay.
interesting.
I can't think of Somalia without Cartman from South Park singing that Somalian Pirates We song.
Yeah.
They never grow old because they die before they're 30.
I don't know. 30's basically an old man in Somalia.
Well, so
I'm pretty sure they died before that.
I'm an old man in Somalia.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Is that why third world countries have such a low COVID death rate? Because nobody ever got old enough to die from it.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm doing a little bit of sketching here, so I tend to zone out a bit. Sorry.
Yeah. It's really strange, though, that they think that the online discourse has anything to do with this. I mean, if the last 40 years of the satanic panic and video games caused violence, and then video games caused school shootings, and then video games caused misogyny, and each and every time it's been debunked by the people who were trying to prove it was real, we know that mean words on the internet don't tend to cause violence in real life.
I mean, are you sure? Are you really sure? Should we just listen and believe on those shrieking maniacs on the stages who obviously been paid off?
Oh, I mean, I completely disagree with that. There's plenty of mean words on the internet, like Democrats encouraging riots that can cause violence.
Like Democrats threatening entire cities if a jury gets the wrong result, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot. No. It's they're instigating a summer of love, a really heated kind of love.
Yeah.
That's a bit more snashy than normal.
Well, I mean, that is kind of I think this is kind of the real problem with the modern day. It is kind of what Sargon describes a lot, like, oh, look at my spreadsheets and numbers, but do the numbers line up on the spreadsheet? Who gives a fuck? Those kinds of rants that he goes on. Like, he has kind of a point. Like, he has a very real point that when matters of justice become, like, kind of somewhat systematized or just reduced to like a numbers game or whatever, then the actual justice starts to get removed from them when racism rather than a moral problem becomes a public health threat, when freedom becomes an obstacle to public health, when
When
everything just gets
research
completely
and critical
paralyzed.
thinking become a danger to society.
Yeah, or it's like, instead of the question of, who is responsible for killing this guy, and like what attitudes on a cultural level we ought not to have, it becomes a question of, oh, what kind of surgical government measures can we take to prevent this from ever happening again? Like, it's the same thing, like with what I was saying about the executions and with the criminal justice thing. When you remove the like human element from it, when you remove the matter of justice itself, quote unquote justice will become increasingly unjust. When you remove all moral weight from these ideas and just reduce it to a pure pragmatic spreadsheet game, then yeah, it's just not good.
That lefty imitation you did reminded me a lot about the Skeksis speeches from Dark Crystal Age of Resistance.
I'm just gonna say okay because I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a good series on Netflix. I really recommend it.
Yeah, Prime Night, courage, justice, and integrity are virtues that should be hammered into school's curriculum. Yeah, I would recommend like reading The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. I know I shill for this book all the time, but I really think it's the removal of thick concepts and moral content from language in the education system that preceded a lot of this, like both degeneracy and like completely amoral way of treating policy.
Why don't you ever shill for Narnia? That's a good series.
Yeah, it is. It's just not as politically relevant.
Yeah, it's.
Nah.
I'm pretty sure it's just your tip. Narnia's a basic. Well, it's the Christian fantasy romp. Which,
Yeah,
and
like
I'm not
you
saying there's
literally
anything
get
wrong
like,
with that. It's just
yeah.
the Christian fantasy romp.
Well, also that's like kind of like a lot more mainstream. So that'd be like me, you know, say recommending some theological thing or whatever that Tolkien wrote, and somebody going, "Well, why don't you recommend Lord of the Rings?" It's like, okay, well, who hasn't been recommended Lord of the Rings before, right?
Yeah, you can figure
I
that
just
one
wanted
out
to mention
yourself.
Narnia.
Yeah.
I really just like Narnia because it has the whole. It has his travel into Christianity. You can just see the entire process of how he just reconverted behind it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Aslan is literally Lion Jesus.
Literally,
He
it's
is.
fun.
Also,
Like
that
C.S.
weird
Lewis
bird guy?
literally literally states, yeah, Aslan is like Jesus. He is Jesus.
Chad, yes.
Yeah.
So I reckon, in addition to those things being taught in schools, I think they need to start teaching rhetoric, as in the art of rhetoric, and statistics, like from the start of secondary school, at the minimum.
Yeah, we should.
An education in rhetoric would allow people to see through the absolutely pathetic arguments most politicians put forward, all their pointless platitudes, etc., etc., and combining that with an understanding of statistics would show you how nearly every statistic a politician comes out with is bullshit, like, say, the unemployment statistic.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because that's like one of those things where it's like the unemployment statistic. Like, I'm not even sure if there is like a good solution for how to make that statistic make more sense because you can't just like make it people who don't have jobs because then it's like a housewife gets counted in that, right? But if it's just people who are looking for work, then that's also equally deceptive. It's like who people who don't have jobs who don't have a good reason not to be looking for work.
So a bunch of lazy bastards then.
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
finding
Not necessarily, because they could be looking for work and like not.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think a better statistic to
I'm
look
just
at
saying, count the lazy bastards in the unemployment statistic, which is not how that goes.
I think one of a better option to than people who are actively looking for work would be people who want to work. Because that'd include, like, the disabled people who'd like to pick up a couple of hours on the weekend somewhere, but don't bother applying most weeks because you can't find those jobs very often. Or it would
No, but
also I would include the people who are currently sitting in a lockdown city going, there's no fucking point applying for work because there's no jobs.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think even then, you like the problem is you can get some people who just like don't want to work but don't really have like a solid like reason. I genuinely think the point of the way that is set up is again to separate like say trad housewives from the unemployment statistic, because like who cares like if like a like trad wife with like a breadwinner husband and a family like isn't working, like that's not important.
Yeah, it definitely is worth making that distinction, because you don't need to try and come up with a job for the unemployed housewife,
Yeah.
because she just doesn't give a toss, which is understandable. But
Indeed.
I do that we definitely need a better statistic than people who aren't employed and are actively looking for work. And
Hey, Billy Blogs, why are you mentioning horse dewormer?
Horse dewormer? Excuse me, what just happened?
He's mentioned
Billy Blogs mentioned horse dewormer in
he is
chat.
mentioning the super ultra banned on YouTube drug that starts with I.
Yeah.
Oh.
It is funny how like Joe Rogan just grilled that CNN guy like, no, this isn't slightly mean. Your people like directly fucking lied about me. And then CNN's response to that is, oh, all we're guilty of is bruising this asshole's ego. Me. It's like, no, you fucking dishonest pieces of shit.
Yeah. Well, we probably shouldn't talk about that nuclear coolant, dihydrogen monoxide, either.
Yeah.
Oh
Probably
yeah,
not.
yeah, dihydrogen monoxide, very dangerous.
Yeah,
Inhalation
you know that's a
causes
solvent that
death.
can dissolve things?
Oh
Also,
yeah,
it makes you
yeah.
lose your penis.
Yeah, it's also like in every lake and reservoir and river. Like
Yeah.
it's everywhere. It's in all of our water
yeah,
supplies.
and
It's
did you
technically
know that everyone who consumes it dies?
yeah,
How
Yeah,
evil
and
and
exactly.
cruel.
and the
In the
government
history
pumps
books,
it
fill
into your
pipes
house.
with it. Yeah.
Lord. I just can't
Man,
take this
like,
shit seriously.
so dangerous. Yeah, yeah.
Though it does remind me of what is like Prop 26 or whatever it is in California, where it's like everything causes cancer.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if your definition of dangerous is that broad, your definition is useless.
No, honestly, I actually came across that exact same frustration last night when browsing like the Christianity subreddit when someone was like, uh, you know, don't get don't get certain shit like this. Like, don't make an error because this shit traumatizes people. And I'm like, I'm so fucking tired of hearing that every mistake that somebody made traumatizes people. Because if you add that level of hysteria to every error or mistake that someone can make, there's just no weight behind it. Like, oh, this is traumatizing. Like, what the fuck are you on about at that point?
We can use this. We can use the same excuse for them that their retardation traumatizes us.
Yeah.
Yes, but remember,
just
we're
go up to
straight
them
white
and be
males,
like,
and so we don't matter.
Oh
Yeah.
right, sorry.
gotta
Sorry, I
preach
keep
at them
forgetting
in
that.
their own
And
language
second's
be
even
like,
worse. He's Christian. They really don't like second.
Oh
yeah.
boy,
Yeah, yeah.
Christian white male privilege. Though you can always lead on that part that you have a little bit of Native American in you.
Well, I mean,
This
if
land is
Elizabeth Warren
yours.
can get away with it while being whiter than Richard Spencer, then I think I can get, away with it being 1/32 Native American. So,
Oh Lord,
Uh,
man. Hey, what about
I'm
the guy here?
sorry, Duffy B. Send me your therapy bills so I can pay reparations.
Oops. No, you don't have to think about that because you're our Native American. You out. What is it called then? You out oppression than him?
Yeah, he ranks higher on the oppression totem pole. The progressive stack, that's it. He's higher on the progressive
That's it.
stack. Oh god, remember when the progressive stack was the stupidest thing we were talking about?
Miss those days.
Yeah.
I never
Student
saw
of
it actually.
history asks you to second. Well, what are you specifically referring to?
Tu Brute?
Is it weird that I thought of that too?
I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense for me. Et tu second plague?
No, you're right, Billy Blogs. The progressive stack hasn't gone away. It's just so many worse things have come up.
It's the sad truth.
Yeah.
Well, it's what's been allowed to manifest from that, like women getting erased as a word.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's what you meant, student of history. Well, that's not exactly a high bar to clear.
I mean, I probably look more Native American than Pocahontas. And there's definitely no Native American in my family tree. I know this for a fact. Yes.
Okay.
I'm super ultra white.
I mean, just
Is
look
there-
at me. I'm
do we
a
need a
Norwegian
super
through and
white
through.
flag?
What?
Super white flag.
Oh god, could
You
you
know, like
imagine
super
the
straight.
ringing?
Oh, it would be beautiful though, guys. That would be amazing.
Okay, really stupid idea. What if we take the conservative gay flag and that triangle that just cuts into it, we just make the entire triangle white?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Please.
But that wouldn't work as a strategy because black is the top of the progressive stack, as critical race theory is proven.
Yes.
I maintain it goes black, trans, gay, whammon.
I'm pretty sure that gay's below whammon these days.
Are they though?
Yeah, like traditional gays are.
Whammon,
We
the new
is
black.
Okay, well,
are above
trad
women.
wives are like trad wives are below traditional gays. So
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Student of history, do you have like a cookbook that's been passed down called Pow Wow Chow and have high cheekbones?
Oddly specific. Is that a Native American thing?
No, that's an Elizabeth Warren pretending to be a Native American thing.
Oh.
It's actually called. She actually said she had a book called Pow Wow Chow.
Yeah.
What? And its companion book, How to Decorate Your Teepee.
Holy shit, she's whiter than I am, and I'm just a pure-blood Norwegian. We're the whitest thing there exists. Holy shit.
I have Italian ancestry, so I'm probably a hell of a lot darker than her.
When you hear from
Oh my
that,
god, is that on fucking Amazon?
what?
You're kidding me, the book's real?
Please show it on screen. Please show it on screen.
Fuck, let me.
Oh my god, it's real.
What?
It's actually fucking real.
Put it
No,
up on screen.
oh my god, we have to actually fucking go through. I'm gonna link it on live stream. No, we actually have to go through the reviews, like on Amazon.
Oh my god, this is beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, so the full heading is Powwow Chow, a collection of recipes from families of the 5 civilized tribes: Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. Ooh, civilized. Ooh, that's gonna.
What about 6? That wasn't civilized.
Wait, you got to get it to the top reviews from the United
Yeah.
States. Oh, wait, hang on.
Yeah, top reviews from other countries. So
It's
they're
probably
pretty
gonna
much
make
all
it
United States.
boring.
Right. Authenticity versus flexibility. Great cookbook of bona fide recipes handed down for generations among native peoples. So authentic that I had difficulty finding some of the original ingredients for traditional Cherokee mainstays, like cold omelettes with crab meat or herb tomatoes. Personal tip: if you're having difficulty finding the traditional ingredients, feel free to just wing it and use whatever suits the moment. Wow.
Okay, I'm looking at one by somebody named Jay Debs. Like, if you can find that one.
Fucking hell.
I'm trying.
What the fuck? Why is it only
Probably because I've got the Australian version and it's
Yeah.
been gay.
Okay. Okay, well, I can
No,
read
I
this
want to
off.
stay on Amazon. Oh, here we go.
Should we buy this? Should we
J
buy
Debs.
this?
But we have no
Yeah.
1 star. Trim, we're doing a cooking stream based on this book.
Yeah.
Fuck yes! Guys, get us to 5,000, 50,000 subscribers, and I'll make food exclusively out of this book.
Okay, so 1 star. Oh god. Oh god, I'm going to die. 1 star. Many moons ago, my ancestor told me the tale of a woman whose skin was like that of horse milk that descended upon our tribe. This woman said to us that she had spirit walked her way to our lands from the little known wannabe tribe. Uh-huh. She said that she had come to teach us her ways of cooking using a red tortoise, or what she called crab, which can only be found near the lakes of salt. To this my tribe said to her, but we have no such lakes here. Nevertheless, she persisted. After several days of her performing a rain dance, which she had said was known to her tribe as the jitterbug, no water was forthcoming. She instead produced from her pouch a cylinder of tin, which was a mush of red tortoise meat. She proceeded to use this to prepare a feast which she shared with my tribe. After the feast had ended, many once strong tribesmen began to fall ill. My ancestor was the only person to avoid being slain by this wicked trick. It is for this reason I must warn all who will hear me from trading to acquire this book.
Oh my god. Do you see the one by Warren W? It's a short one. Yeah, it's the
Cherokee native cakes recipe. Yummy. 1 cup brown sugar. 1,024 cups pure white flour.
Do your thing, internet.
Oh god, I love it. Oh, that is beautiful.
Oh man.
Okay,
No.
here's a review from Tomcat Books. 1 star. This book has become a running joke. Elizabeth Warren apparently plagiarized 3 of the recipes, 2 from the New York Times and the other from a 1959 Better Homes and Garden recipe. Plagiarism. 1 out of 5 stars by Beth Harrington. Read parts of this that were shared via social media. Contributor Elizabeth Warren claimed to be a member of the Cherokee tribe in her contributions, which it turns out were taken from another author. Plagiarism and copyright violations. A new version of this book needs to be printed without her contributions. Oops.
Oh my god. I mean, shit like this, it makes me actually believe that there's a benevolent god.
Yeah. 1 star by Set J. The book is fake. All the recipes were lifted from newspapers and magazines. They originated with various chefs, including a French one.
But haven't you heard about the French tribe? They were notorious for their snails.
Yeah.
I seem to remember that they were the bitter enemies of the toast and bean tribe.
And basically the rest of the negative reviews go on to say Elizabeth Warren's a lying sack of crap, which is not untrue.
Ain't wrong.
Oh man, 3-star review. Decent, save for an odyssey. Or an oddity. Decent cookbook, save for the strange fact that most of the recipes are measured in unusual fractions, i.e., 1/1024th an ounce of flour.
What the
Oh man, this was an enjoyable bit of nostalgia for simpler times.
That was a completely unnecessary diversion, but it was fucking hilarious.
Loved it. Every second of it. Fucking hell. Who brought this up? Who brought this one up?
Oh, that was me.
Second.
Yeah, bless you for this. Oh god, it's too funny.
That's hilarious. Oh.
Oh boy.
Oh man, fucking classic.
Need more revelations like this.
Okay. Let's start with what the Lotus is actually covered today.
Chef, you're supposed to do that.
Dear. So, why trans activists will lose. So, apparently, the trans activists are going to lose, and it seems to be in large part because the TERFs are winning. Because, you know, at least TERFs can agree on the colour of the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been on their side in this conflict anyway, so...
Well, it's weird because this is even Vosh is sort of starting to get this, or at least he's recognizing the optical untenability of the position. I think is more likely. Where this one Vosh clone who's somehow even worse than him, Demon Mama, got really triggered at him for arguing that gender can't just mean anything and have a self-referential arbitrary definition, which is a take he stole from Destiny, who he previously called transphobic for that exact take. But
imagine being
Vosh is just kind of a snake and a creature of optics, but even he understands how bad that looks.
Yeah.
It's a surprise he actually had a take that wasn't absolute shit.
I know. It was I was in the fucking Twilight Zone or something.
Yeah, you expect looking out the window and see a gremlin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things are so bad, we have Joanna Cherry joining Rosie Duffield for a free speech panel. Rosie fucking Duffield.
It's her thing again.
She's a Labour MP, I'm pretty sure.
God.
She's branded her party an absolute embarrassment on women's rights and gender identity. Not wrong.
I mean... Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing the conclusion of this. The sad part is that the actual trans people, the people with dysphoria, are the ones who are going to suffer for this crap.
Well, they already are, because as they said on the thing, something like 85+% of people grow out of dysphoria without help, and usually turn out to be gay or bi or something.
Or just deeply uncomfortable with their bodies as they're going through puberty.
Yeah, which I've seen spoken about before, especially in young girls. All of a sudden, boys, it's one thing. Oh no, you're growing hair and your voice is cracking, and you might get an Adam's apple. But for girls, like, all of a sudden, massive bodily changes.
Yeah.
And with the abysmal...
Oh no, bleeding out of my genitals is uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously.
And I'm starting to grow breasts, and all of a sudden, all the boys are treating me different. But I liked my friends who were boys. I just want to be one of the boys. I just want to play in the mud with Tonka trucks. I must be trans. No, wait. You like to play in the mud with your Tonka trucks. You must be trans, says Stonewall and the other place. Whatever the fuck
Now
my name
let
was.
us chop your genitals off.
I can feel the barely concealed seething rage from you two, specifically with that, because you're both just thinking, "Don't you dare fucking touch my tomboys."
You
Is
know
it
what's
that
too well
obvious?
second.
Yeah, it is. It is. I could
Wow.
feel the tension.
You can feel it all the way over the goddamn Atlantic. Holy
Yeah.
crap. I got issues.
Step like the tomboys. Stay the fuck away from my tomboys, you sick twisted bastards. And but two, and yes, I think I did just say A then too.
I agree with Discordia. Hashtag bring back tomboys.
Based. Save our tomboys.
Oh god damn it.
Save the tomboys! Save the dream!
Indeed. Fuck, I had a point. Oh yeah, tomboys are a really good example of how we end up with girls who are uncomfortable in their bodies being victimized by what's the Tavistock, that's the bastards.
Yeah.
Billy Blogs, I will not stop licking the female abs.
I mean,
Okay, well that's kind of degenerate.
no, it's cultured.
Look.
No. No. No, identifying with that weird tongue sock puppet
Yeah.
is
That thing was weird, but I mean,
yeah.
women with
Wait, that
abs.
was weird for you guys? I've seen
They
weirder
would
pictures.
have to take something that's not that bad and make it weird, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
True. Though I was surprised that Sargon would use those kind of pictures.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that
I've
was the
never
meme.
expected that.
Well, that was the meme that was going around.
Yeah.
Billy Blogs, I have never heard of red snapper before as slang, but slang in Australia is very diverse. Basically, there's like 7 different versions of slang, depending on which state you're in, because unlike everywhere else in the world, you're a day's drive in a modern vehicle from area to area.
Red snapper, a beaten and very used vagina.
Nah, that's...
Also, red snapper, a nymphomaniac, a woman who loves sex so much that her cunt is almost always red and swollen.
Yeah, I never heard of that as an Australian one.
I don't know, I just looked it up on Urban Dictionary.
Yeah.
I mean, funny.
And basically,
We have an expression for that. We call it low shedding.
Yeah, but for those of us who want to speak in normal speak, red snapper.
Well, it's not my fault you are uncultured people with no language capabilities.
The one I've heard, normally I think we stole from the Brits. They're called the town bicycle, because everyone gets a ride.
I mean, is that the reason why you were all sent to Australia, because you kept stealing their slang? That's the true crime you did?
Well, you know, you might not know.
Either by Indian or Arabian? Oh, the stream died.
Not dropping from...
Second, are you there?
Yeah?
Yeah. Was it fentanyl?
What?
The-
No.
Huh?
Right.
Repeat that.
Are we back? Can
This
anyone
is
hear
actually this is actually like the first year in a while that I haven't like taken opiates at some
Yeah.
point.
Okay. If I've
Well,
managed to unfuck it,
People
people might
in
be
a second
able
here.
to hear us, maybe?
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 Well, I'm gonna refresh. No, it still doesn't like us.
Not a Zippo Zero. Darn it.
Right. Let's see. Still no luck. So when you guys refresh, you get nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we just try and do another stream?
Oh, whoa.
Oh,
wait,
we might be back. We might be back.
Wait.
Oh.
Yep, I see technical difficulties. BRB.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, thank God.
Yes.
Yes, we're back.
Wonderful.
Hallelujah.
Wait, are we actually back, or are we still in the?
We do appear to be back. I set up a quick technical difficulties screen while that was all running in the background, and that screen's got our audio back on. Woohoo!
Yeah, and they can hear us.
Hallelujah!
They can hear us. We unfucked this.
And importantly, better recovery time than the legislators. Since they're picking on us.
Who is Boomer?
Look, I think
At least we're better than the Lotus Munchers.
It's the reason Carl wasn't on today because he's snuck into Australia or something? Do I need to look out the window? Is Carl hanging around near the internet box?
He's coming over to Australia to sabotage you.
He must be annoyed we're stealing all his stuff.
Yeah, or wait, they're stealing our stuff.
No, staff.
Oh yeah, stop. There we go.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, looks like everyone has back. Oh God, what's it doing to me? Alright.
Now let's see how
If
long this
I
lasts.
go back, let's see if that updates on the stream.
I got a spinning circle thingy.
It's being interesting, but it does show me as back.
There we go.
Michael Money says, "You think I do any work here?" Well, someone has to put the names on all the videos. Oh dear. Alright, shall we jump back into it? I think we shall.
I don't know why Discord is giving me shit for this. I'm not even touching the technical side. Jesus Christ.
Oh dear. Right. Back to Rosie Duffield. So, Rosie Duffield is the one who stayed away from the Labour Party conference last month after being labelled as a transphobe, saying she'd been the victim of online abuse. Well, she better be careful. Some radical Islamists might come and attack her if someone's said mean words to her on the internet.
Yeah, that might be very difficult, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know? You turban wearing psychopath comes here. Second. Thank you.
Dr. Fauci.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
That is probably the best episode of The Lotus.
Yes.
Constant cringe. Oh, it's so...
Well, no, between that and was that like tree with the
Oh,
girl
yeah.
setting up Tron.
Oh,
Twitter.
Sargon.
Twitter. It's Twitter.
Oh, dear.
Twitter is for twits.
Twitter.
Mm. I hate that fake English.
Mm-hmm.
End it. Let's see. I mean, what does it say to you then?
On my end,
Yeah?
literally nothing. That's the problem. Like, I'm uploading consistently. YouTube says the stream is healthy. Student of History can hear me.
Student of History can hear you?
Yeah, student. So it might be working a bit.
Let's see. Yeah, we're back.
Did you find out about it from Twitter?
Oh, don't tell me that's a magic phrase that allows us to function.
Well, Trey.
That would kill the stir. I might just ask if she has any idea about OBS. I mean,
Stuff for other people.
I just didn't know the lore.
yeah.
I'm restarting again to see how it. Nothing.
God damn.
Hey.
As long as you respect Thor.
Look. Okay. Chicken cares. We'll try a stream. Okay, we'll try that. We'll do that.
New stream, boys.
Okay, let's end the broadcast.
Sure.
Redo it.